Hello, my beautiful gemstones. Welcome to Tuesday's afternoon talk with myself, the Gostdragonzw, and Sir Ryan Paul Tremblay. Miss Pixie, what is up? I was giggling because our subject today, the Raven Mocker, I don't know much about it, but Ryan's definitely got us covered. But, you know, I'm thinking bird. And the minute I hit the 30-second count on the stream, there's some weird bird outside of my window just going really loud. That wasn't there before. So I'm just going to wait for a few people to stream in. Hey, mommy dearest, what is up? I was just telling Ryan backstage that you are scared of crows and ravens, like to an extreme degree, whereas they don't bother me. And I was also telling him how I've never seen you watch anything besides Peppa Pig, which dawned on me afterwards, that wasn't horror related. Like, I've never sat with you to watch a comedy. We've never done that. It's just, it's your Miss Horror, right? Hey, Aunt Edna, what's up, girl? So while we wait for another couple of people to trickle in, I just want to make a couple quick announcements so I don't have to do it at the end. Monday, I'm trying to do listener encounters. If I can get enough people to send in their stories, I need one more personal encounter for listener encounters. And we're going to be talking about thwarted alien abductions, like people who were about to be taken, like in the middle of being abducted, and then something happened where they ended up, the aliens kind of like gave up. And the stories are actually pretty cool, very scary, but Blue Crossroads, Roger Blair, Jason Pritchard. Aside from that, though, guys, I think I'm going to bring the gentleman in, and Gostdragonzw is having a little bit of problems with his tremors today, so he may be a little more quieter than usual. You know, he's stuttering a little bit, but he's trying to pull it together. So in the comments, do not blame me if that man does not talk this whole time, okay? But with that being said, I'm sure there's other things, but I can get to them at the end. Nothing big. Let's bring him in.
Hi, Mom.
How's it going?
Hi, folks.
Mom, did you get my Peppa Pig short?
Mom's in the chat, huh?
Yeah, I sent it right to her the minute I did it. I was like, it reminded me of my mom. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, go check out the 2 shorts I did today. And I did the 3rd week of May too for Intuitive Oracle. So yeah, Ryan, why don't you introduce our topic today? Why don't you bring us in?
Okay. So today we're going to be covering a Cherokee legend. It's a very feared Cherokee legend at that. It's the Raven Mocker. It's something that your mom's going to be very angry with me for after I'm done talking about it. So,
or at least more terrified.
Yeah, she probably won't go outside whenever she sees any birds at all. So, sorry.
Sorry, Mom.
But anyway, so the Cherokee have a pantheon of different spirits, and the evil ones are called the Sunai Dahi. These are called the night goers. Okay, and you're going to like this, Gemma, because they don't associate them with cryptids or even demons. They associate them with the Fae. And the most feared, the most feared of these are the Raven Mocker. And it's said to take the form of either an old man or an old woman, but it can be invisible to everybody else. Only certain medicine men that have been granted the medicine of seeing evil spirits can actually see the Raven Mocker. So anyone who's sick or dying is terrified of this thing because it will be stalking the sick and the dying because it wants their hearts. It's pretty gruesome.
Okay, I have a couple questions just right off the bat.
Okay.
So I'm always concerned with, is this something that I have a chance of seeing? Is this something that these people, when they're sick, would be like a random person who didn't know about them? Would it be something that showed itself to make other people aware? Are they fear eaters, basically? Like, would they show themselves to get the fear?
That's a good question. I mean, I would think if you're not Cherokee, you don't have to worry, but then maybe you would. I mean, I don't know. So
my mom
if you were
has a lot of Cherokee in her.
So. Geez.
Yeah.
See, your mom's gonna hate me after this, man. Your mom's gonna be like, screw Ryan, dude. Don't
we are Cherokee, actually.
Oh, okay, you are. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Another reason mentioned that this was very interesting when Ghost Dragons told me last night you wanted to discuss it. I immediately looked it up, and I found some different things, and I was like, at the end of the day, I knew you would know what you were talking about, but I saw that they're like a witch. Is this kind of like not in the same exact way, but like where a skinwalker or yeah, a skinwalker is like a shaman or a witch that's able to transform itself. Is this like the same thing? I guess you'll get into that, like maybe how they're made.
It's similar in a way, but nobody really knows how they're made. That's the weird thing, is like they don't know if they're medicine men that go down the wrong path or if they're something from the spirit world. I'm guessing the spirit world, because nobody can really see them unless you're that medicine man that's been gifted the medicine of seeing invisible spirits, or if you're the one who's sick or dying. Because if you're dying, you can obviously see your tormentor. So this thing will come to you. You wonder what?
I'm sorry. I wonder if I do have Cherokee blood and I'm a medium, if I would maybe be able to see it.
I've never seen so
thus far. But then again, would I have known what I was looking at? I've seen so many things throughout my 41 years where I've been like, oh, don't know what that is, and just like kept moving on. You know, that's terrifying, and then just walked away from it. I wonder if I would be able to see it.
I would think so. I mean, if you're Cherokee and you're a medium and everything, I would think you could tap into that. I don't see why you couldn't.
Cool. That's cool.
I mean, I would think so. I would definitely think so. Maybe your mom could too. I don't know.
She probably already has too. She's very disconnected from the gift, but all right, yeah, keep going. I just have lots of questions. So
okay, so yeah, this thing is essentially immortal. What it does is it eats the heart of its victim without even breaking the skin. It has some magical way of digging into the body and removing its victim's heart to increase its own longevity. So the more hearts it eats, the longer it lives. So this thing, you know, goes after all the sick and the dying, even it's like a kid, a baby, elderly person, you know, medium-aged person. It's just whoever's sick, it's going to be a victim of the Raven Mocker.
That's very demonic. Anything that forces you to kill to survive is, I guess, in maybe my Christian religion teaches me that it's demonic when they might think it's something different.
Yeah, Christians would consider it demonic, but the Cherokee don't, though. They don't consider a cryptid or a demon. They think it's like a fae kind of being. So to them, it's so evil, but it's revered too in a way. Like it's so feared that they respect it. You know, they're not going to talk trash about it, and they're not going to, you know, go out and try to stir one up. But you know, it's just, it comes about whenever somebody is sick. It has this way of knowing when somebody is sick or dying, and they can actually hear the call of the Raven Mocker. You know, so if you're ever sick and you're Cherokee, it's like that's the last thing you want to see.
Ooh, I keep getting the chills like over and over again. Definitely want to look more into the idea of it being a fae, because that to me is pretty interesting, because in all my research, I didn't come across it, but I do know there are very, very evil and even demonic type. Again, they can't be demonic because they're not actual demons, but very demonic behaving fae creatures for sure. Goblins use the bones of children they eat as toys for their goblin children, and things like that. And I feel like anything that has to kill and use a part of the kill for its own survival and longevity, that to me sounds like a darker magic, which is something that fae are definitely capable of doing. It's kind of like the old, like a lot of people, there's a lot of these tropes in movies about witches where once they have like the black pact with Satan, they have to, you know, drink blood to remain forever youthful, or, you know, things like that. It's the feeding off of the unsuspecting or suspecting human life force in order for its own longevity. So that actually makes a lot of sense.
It does. It's terrifying though. I mean, because like you don't even want to get sick. You know, you're like, oh, I got the sniffles. So great. You know, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble now. So
yeah, for sure.
But I mean, the fae interests you, since you're really interested in the fae. The Sunai Adahi, you know, the night goers, they actually describe them as shadow beings. So kind of think about that a little bit. You were talking about the Dark Watchers in one of your videos.
Yes.
You know, so are the Dark Watchers and these guys kind of intertwined? Do they stem from the same beings? Are they
I think
actually
so
the same
much
thing?
of it is connected in ways we can't even begin to comprehend because most of us don't
Mhm.
even believe it in the first place. Not us in this
Right.
community, but I just think humans as a whole are so resistant to the idea that we are not the only thing here, you know? And I did
I'm
say
not
that she
resistant.
thought no, I mean, outside of this community, though, so many human beings are like, they don't want to believe in extraterrestrials. They don't want to believe in
Right.
life after death. They're so resistant to like them not being the center of the universe. Do you know what I'm saying? They're
Right.
them not being
Yeah.
the end all and be all of like what there is out there. And it's crazy to me, but some people are like that. And instead she said two things here I wanted to cover. She said
Mhm.
the first one was that she always thought that they can only be a woman. She didn't know that they can also
Right.
appear as a man. And she
Mhm.
said they talked about such things in whispers as a warning. They never mentioned them again. Very spooky.
Right, right. But it can be both a man and a woman. It all depends on the Raven Mocker and what it's trying to do, like the task it's trying to perform, how much fear it wants to strike into the individual or the individuals, because it can go after more than one person at the same time. So it's like it's really messed up because you think about it when somebody's laid up and they're dying, this thing personally comes around to start tormenting them mentally and emotionally to drive their fear up and up and up and then devour their heart to increase its own immortality. It's like you're kind of a jerk, Raven Mocker.
They are fear eaters, then for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. The more that you fear them, the
Those
more
are the
stronger it
worst
gets.
kinds of entities I've ever encountered. I always tell people are like, yeah, but what do I do? If there's shadow being holding me down if I'm having sleep paralysis. And I'm like, you don't want to hear my answer. And people are always like, no, 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 tell me. And then when I tell them, most of them are like, oh, okay, laugh,
Yeah.
laugh, force
Yeah.
yourself in that fear. Even if you don't mean it, I'm not saying be hysterical. Crack a smile, start forcing yourself to giggle. I've actually
Yep.
seen shadow entities become confused at this, stop what they were doing, and disappear back to wherever it was that they came from.
Yeah.
And it is. I guess it's a case of laughter being a medicine in
Yeah.
defense
Oh,
of these
absolutely.
types of things. You're
Yeah.
not giving it what it
Positivity.
wants.
Positivity
Mhm.
itself, it drains these things of their energies. I mean, like we were talking about skinwalkers the other night on DA Roberts' show, and there was a guy, a member of the Dene tribe, up on there, and he was telling people if you ever feel like a Yanagoshi, a skinwalker is after you, center yourself, find positive things to fill your life with, and the influence of that skinwalker will decrease over time. So obviously, good things actually do affect these evil entities.
That is so, and that's remarkable because again, I don't know anything about the Raven Mocker or a lot of the legends that you bring to the show, which is one of the main reasons I wanted you to be. You're such a great addition because it's things that I actually don't know about or that I've never heard about,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like when I tell people, my clients, people in Oracle, any of my friends, I would say, and I even tell my mom sometimes, I'm like, when you focus on the negative all the time, you are not only going to receive more negative from the universe, your defenses start
Yep.
going down. You don't only become spiritually attacked, but you leave yourself vulnerable to physical illness. I know when I'm at my
Yep.
worst in my personal life, when I feel like there's a situation that I just don't know how to handle, I'm crying all the time, I'm upset, which does happen because I'm human. If I don't
Right.
quickly turn that positive, I'll, have a bad cold the next week, or I'll start running a fever a week later. Physical disease, and I'm not saying disease doesn't exist, but for a lot of the
Mhm.
time, physical disease, sicknesses, colds, things like that are the bigger issue is spiritual dis-ease causes
Yes.
physical disease. And that's true, whether y'all want to believe it or not. So I'm going to close my window because of course they're landscaping outside and it's open. So I'll be
Oh,
right
we're gonna
back,
hear a
guys.
buzz. Okay.
Yeah.
When there was time I was in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I think about it, there was this guy down the hall who would scream about blackbirds.
Ooh.
I wonder if he was seeing something of that sort.
That's definitely possible because the Raven Mocker will use the sight of blackbirds, of ravens, to spy on its victims or its intended victims. So I don't know, Ghost. That seems very, very likely.
He would
It does.
he would yell at him to get away from his window.
Mm.
And
Okay.
and there was
Okay.
one night, it was just as the sun was setting, and it was like the third night I was there, and he was screaming at these things. I mean, shit. I mean, I actually watched because he was just at the angle I could see his doorway. I mean, like three
Right.
nurses were and it got quiet. So I'm thinking they sedated him,
Mm-hmm.
but this
Right.
dude was freaking out. It was one of those times in my head you don't think about it, because when you're in the hospital, you see some things that with people that, you know, kind of unnerving, but it just kind of goes over your head. And it was really weird that you brought this up, and it immediately popped right back up in my head, because it was a very surreal thing. It was just wow.
Yeah, I mean,
creepy.
yeah. So everyone wants you to just go on. There is a question I want to ask, maybe to start you back off on your train of thought. So my mom says, which I told you before stream, for years, every time I see a crow or blackbird or raven, the first thing comes to my mind is death. So two things. Number one, is this, we're just talking about, I don't know, there's a difference between a crow and a raven, or they're the same?
There's a difference. There is actually a difference. They're from the same
so.
family, though. They're from the same
Okay,
family,
so,
but
the raven mocker would be just raven, or would it be blackbirds?
blackbirds in general.
Okay.
So because like
and
crows, ravens, anything that's part of that family is part of
Okay.
its, you know, its usage, its little weaponry.
that's what I figured. I just wanted to clarify. So, what about that? What about so many people, you know, thinking of death immediately upon looking at these birds, and just go on about the raven mocker, because I think everyone's really kind of brought in now and wants to hear more.
Right. So with blackbirds, what it is like there's a lot of different mythologies where crows or ravens are kind of viewed in a negative light. Some people believe that crows will carry souls up to heaven. Some people believe that crows can carry wrong souls back to the world of the living. That's why they made the movie The Crow. If you remember that movie, when he died, the crow brought him back. It brought his soul back from the dead. Me too. Why do you think I wore the leather jacket? So,
oh, nice. I love
Brandon
it.
Lee's my inspiration for the leather jacket and the long hair. But yeah, I mean, they believe that it would carry a soul back. Some people, though, believe that crows would rob people of their souls. So there's a lot of history with crows, ravens being evil entities.
Okay. What else? What more? What else?
Okay, so they even had methods to stop the raven mocker. What a medicine man would do, especially the ones that could see him, he would set up 4 wooden stakes in the house, right? And from each wooden stake, he would take a line of pure tobacco and he would intersect each one of those wooden stakes. And what that would do, it would act like a tripwire. So if the raven mocker tried to enter the house, the tobacco would spring up and the wooden stakes would impale the raven mocker.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Isn't
it's like
it?
Because I guess it's a source of the earth, and the earth is like grounding, maybe.
Well, tobacco is very sacred in all the indigenous tribes, especially the pure tobacco, the elder tobacco. You know, to them, it's something that they use for offerings. Like, you know, when I go on Bigfoot investigations, one thing I do is I offer pure tobacco as an offering to the Bigfoot. You know, and with Dogman too, I do the same thing. Yeah, because it's a very, very sacred plant. And they believe that when you smoke it and you exhale the smoke, it's carrying your prayers to the creator above.
Oh my God, something just literally occurred to me. I even talk about it. I talk about it in my book, Missing the Faith Theory, that you are to leave sweets, airplane bottles of alcohol or any alcohol, or pure tobacco as an offering to them when you go in, when you enter the woods, or if you feel like you've accidentally or inadvertently offended the Fae, leave it on your way out. Yeah, that's crazy. Someone else had a question. I definitely wouldn't have put that together. So Roger Blair said, isn't the crow/raven considered a trickster in some Native American cultures?
It absolutely is. Yep. Much like the coyote. Yep. Because crows and ravens can actually learn human words. It's crazy. There's a video on Instagram where a crow is asking for a donut. He comes up to the window and he goes, donut, donut. And he calls the guy's name. He knows the human's name. The guy's name is John. So he'll stand at the window going, John, donut, John, donut. So they can actually understand human words and say human words. So they mess with people out in the woods. You know, in the woods, they mess with them. I've had crows do it to me. When I'm out investigating, I've had crows cry like babies, and I'm looking around going, where the hell is a baby? But it's a freaking crow doing it. I'm like, bastard.
If my mother if we were ever doing, first of all, I would never get her into the woods. I can't even get her across my yard to the creek. But if I swear I would lose my mom. If we heard a crow like talking in human words to us, I'm thinking of her. I told you I've been thinking of her ever since Gostdragonzw told me you wanted to cover this. And I'm just thinking to myself, I could just see her just like she'd be done. That'd be the end of it. And I think I would be pretty terrified too, because I didn't know that they could learn language like that. But then you got to think like if they're out in the woods like that, who's teaching them that?
Yeah, but you know, they do talk. There's a video of a guy fishing and a blackbird flies up to him. It's a raven. And it starts talking to him. It says fish. Fish. And the guy freaks out. He freaks out.
Who is teaching them this? That's what I would. It's like, is there some entity that's teaching them to do this to kind of lure unsuspecting humans in? I mean, maybe.
Who knows? And then they like shiny things too. You can actually like get crows to trade with you. If you leave them shiny things, they'll bring gifts back to you.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
We have crows and ravens here, which is pretty wild. But I feed them every morning. I go out and throw old bread to just the blackbirds and the crows. And it's interesting now, as soon as I turn the light off and come out the door, they sit on the roof on the house across the street and watch and wait. And as soon as I come up on the porch, they start talking. I mean, chirping and making noise. Yeah.
I don't ever see them here. We have a ton of all different birds. Obviously, we're in the woods, but I don't see them often here. But I used to see them a lot by my mom's house in South Jersey. She was like 8 or 9 minutes from the beach, oddly enough. And I saw more of them there than I see here in the middle of the woods.
Wow. Yeah, here in Arizona, they're sacred. So I can't even collect raven or crow feathers because I'm not indigenous. I'm not allowed to collect their feathers at all. It's against the law. Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. I guess that they are sacred. So,
I can get in deep trouble for doing it. So I never do it like that.
It's a couple grand just to have a eagle's feather.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah, you can go to jail for that here in Arizona.
Somebody sent me from California and they were like, don't tell anybody. But then they ended up being a Judas B word. So I'm going to tell everybody. This person, who shall not be named, sent me from California a young condor feather.
Oh, oof.
And I don't even know what a condor is. But she was like, just don't tell anyone you have it. I still have it. It's a little messed up now because it's several years old. But I mean, I never bothered to look it up. But it makes sense. Something that's sacred, you don't want to go messing with it. I know when I was in high school, I did find crow feathers and other things in like our parking lot area of where we lived. And I do remember my mom freaking out of bringing the crow feather into the house because number one, she's like, birds carry disease. And she's like, number two, that's a crow. They bring death. They're evil. But I remember too, that one day my mom and I were walking out. I think we were going somewhere. And I think we were walking across the street to go to the stores. There was like a shopping mall there. And there were like 2 or 3 dead crows. They were like, I don't know what happened to them. It looked almost like they had flown right into the side of the brick building that we lived in and fallen and like broken their necks. I don't know. But that same night we found out that my sister's boyfriend at the time had taken his own life at 17 years old. And it always stuck with me that those birds were a sign. Now it's never happened again in deaths. But finding that out that same exact night did something to me mentally where now I do associate them with death and the coming and bringing of death. My mom says I was at your house. I saw them in a tree looking at me. I can't listen. I believe you, Mom, but you got to understand. My mom once ran into my house screaming, "Wolf, wolf, there's a wolf outside." I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen a wolf. The next day, we're outside. She's outside smoking a cigarette. And suddenly she comes running in. She's like, there it is, the wolf.
Mm-hmm.
My neighbor's dog. This big. So this is also the woman that pushed her own husband of 30-something years in front of her as she went running to my door because a bear was like across the street minding its own business. So,
oh boy.
definitely not a nature woman, my mom. But I
Apparently
do
not.
have no. I've always had the idea of death when it is with crows specifically. I would not be able to tell the difference between a crow and a raven, but I did know pretty much that there was one. So what else? What else?
Well, I mean, like, the Raven Mocker itself, it's just like it's the epitome of like the most evil thing you'd want to encounter, because when you're sick, it's inflicting this mental and emotional abuse onto you. It's making all these horrible things happen to you in an attempt to weaken you. So it's it's giving you these mental images. Yeah, it's trying to traumatize you as much as it can, as if seeing it wouldn't be traumatic enough. But it's inflicting these like psychotic things onto you where it's really trying to destroy your mind. Because once you destroy the mind, the body goes. Yeah. So it's trying to destroy you emotionally and mentally so it can take your life force. So it's something that they don't even joke about. Like if somebody says, oh, there's a Raven Mocker, I'm just joking. These Cherokee people look at you like, don't even joke about that. Don't make fun of this. So it's something that they really do not want to play around with. It's not.
I would assume that maybe they don't really want to talk about it too much. I mean, I know with like when you say skinwalkers, you really have to look and like gain trust before someone will even speak to you about it. So they know you're not trying to like abuse the, whatever it is. Is it the same in this case?
Oh yeah, because like a lot of the tribes, they believe that speaking is the same as manifestation. Like, if you draw something, it's the same as manifestation, which I believe. I believe if you talk about something too much, or if you draw it, or if you're idolizing it. Yeah. If you're idolizing it in any way, if you're paying it credit, paying it homage, you could manifest these things and bring them to you. So, like the Wendigo, like the Skinwalker, they believe the same thing about the Raven Mocker as well.
Yeah, I was telling people, my daughter won't read my BEK book because I was even talking about like in the book, and I was talking to her about it. And I told you before stream, I told you guys that it took me a really long time to write that, because in my experience, particularly with the book that came before it, the shadow entities, I was like over infested with them more than I'd ever been writing that book, because I was bringing my mind's attention to it so much that I drew them in, which for me is relatively normal with the shadow entities, but I have been terrified of the BEK since the first time I found out about them. I don't want to talk about them. I have not read that book. I wrote it, but I did not read it. And I don't think I'm going to read it. Even covering the BEK and reading from that book on my channel caused me a lot of like inner turmoil and real fear. And like I did a lot of protective stuff around myself, which I normally don't do. Like I normally do a general protection in the morning to keep things I don't want at bay. But when it came to that particular entity, so I can see that, like, even when someone asks me about the book, what's it about? Well, it's about the Black-Eyed Kids. Just read it. I don't like to go into what they are, I just don't like talking about it. I think it's not, and some people will say, well, it's bad luck. It's not really bad luck. It's that you're connecting with their energy. And the Black-Eyed Kids are actually something that is known. Once you're aware of it, you have a much more likely chance of being visited. Not in every case. There have been people who never heard of them before, but once you're aware, and I think that's with anything lower vibrational and paranormal.
Oh, I agree.
Once you're aware of it, it's aware of you.
Yep. I mean, I take precautions whenever I do shows about Wendigo or Skinwalker. Before the show, I'm using white sage. I'm, actually putting white ash on my doorstep. I'm putting it along my doorway. I get a blessing from William Nighthawk. I take all these precautions before even talking about this stuff. So even when I'm studying it, I got sage burning. I got all this stuff going on to try to ward that stuff away, because you can never be too careful with these things.
You absolutely have to. Yeah, my mom says I see things in different form that other people can't see. It happens to me all the time. My mom I believe my mom's has not only native blood, but healer. Specifically, my whole life, I've seen my mom's energy the same way I see healers. but
so
she doesn't really
she
want to
could
learn
see
to
a
work
Raven
with it
mocker
too much.
then. Ooh.
But that was where I was going, was like on the other end of the spectrum, she would also have like an easier chance of not only drawing one in, but like becoming one, you know,
Yeah.
which is scary. And I do protection on her all the time, and my kids, but
Mhm.
that's just crazy. I've heard of a raven mocker, but again, I saw like some ad for a movie. It was like a B-rated movie, and I was like, oh, it's about birds, and like didn't even bother to look into it. And now I realize it's like an actual real thing, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to the native legends, right?
Mhm.
And I
Oh,
believe
yeah.
this with most paranormal stuff, but especially when it comes to the native legends, it had to have come from somewhere, like the Dark Watchers. This has been going on for at least 300 years minimum.
Right.
And that's just as far back as like the written word. So it was probably
Right.
going on before that. They all
Mhm.
come from somewhere. In my book, Missing the Faith Theory, I talked about fairy tales. And, you know, where did Hansel and Gretel come from? The great famine of the 14th century. Where did, you know, this one come? They all have some form of truth in them. And
Yes,
the way I see it
absolutely.
is like, why even take the chance of, you know,
Right.
bringing something like that in? Yeah.
You read into folklore and you talk to people about their go, oh, you know, there's some kernel of truth to this, you know, because something rings with you when you're hearing the stories. Something kind of hits home and
Mhm.
you're going, oh, wait a minute, you know, there's some truth to this. So then you start scratching the surface more and more, and you start finding more truth, and you're like, oh, these aren't just stories after all. So you kind
Mhm.
of, you know, go, oh crap, I'm going to be really careful here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it needs to
absolutely.
be understood that not everybody's. It's you just don't see a raven marker,
Right.
right?
Yeah, we
Right.
discussed that.
Gotta
I
be
think
it,
we did
yeah,
that from the beginning.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's gotta be it.
You'll actually hear it before you see it. They say that it sounds like a raven taking a deep descending dive. So it'll be like a really loud cry of a raven, and that kind of heralds the raven mocker's arrival. You know, it's funny how all these indigenous lores, they have some kind of arrival sound. Like the Wendigo has the cry of the Wendigo. You know, the skinwalkers will mimic someone close to you. The raven mocker has a
Yes.
cry of the raven. So all these things come with some kind of warning. I always find that really interesting.
Yeah, I think that's you know, just a part of how our system was set up. Again, whether you believe that's God or whether you believe it's something in the universe, you know, I
Mhm.
believe that as light beings, anything that, you know, anything that's dark is technically, this may be controversial, but I don't mean it in that way, so don't come for me.
Uh-oh.
Technically being allowed to be on Earth,
Mhm.
and to be in our vicinity and to have the option to do these things to us. It's how we react to these things. It's how we protect ourselves. It's what we turn to in times when we're being attacked. That's on us, and that's the reason these things are able to operate. But it would
Right.
make sense that that would be a protection mechanism for human beings that was put into place, that
Right.
we can see and hear these things coming, even though, you know, even with that, knowing about raven mockers, would that be the first thing I think of if I heard a really loud raven caw or
It might
call,
be.
whatever?
I know it
It
is for
might
me.
be. If for
It is
you
for
it
me
is,
now.
but
I'm like,
I'm sitting here thinking like, I don't even know if before today, it never would have occurred to me, except I would think of my mom and think, okay, somebody's going to die because of
mhm.
us finding those 3 crows that day.
Right. Well, I mean, it makes sense, you know, and spirituality is all about balance, though, you know. So what you said wasn't really that controversial. For good and evil, there has to be that careful balance. You know, it can't be like one's out of check and one's totally dominant. It's never going to work that way. That's how human beings learn. That's how we evolve and how we change is the balance of good and evil. You know, we learn the difference. We learn what makes what operate. So it's not really controversial what you said at all.
Well, thank you. But you are a friend. So, yeah, it's just like this balance of not only changing and expanding our minds and our knowledge, but our spiritual
Mhm.
expansion, which I feel like in the last 4 years, I've spiritually grown and like matured so much. It's
Mhm.
insane. And I think a big part of that is learning about a lot of the evil or lower vibrational, more negative aspects
Yeah.
to what's going on around me spiritually, instead of what am I looking to, what am I trying to manifest, what am I bringing into my life or conjuring up or whatever, to also be very mindful of the opposite end of that spectrum. And I
Yes.
don't think that's where a lot of people, I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up, because they're not thinking about something negative they can call in. If you want to call in an angel, what do? You can pray, you can talk directly out loud to your spirit guide. These things, the only invitation they need sometimes is like your thought.
Yep.
If you think too hard about the BEK, you have a real chance of bringing them in.
Right. Same with
It's
the
crazy.
skinwalkers too, and the Wendigo. So you got to be really, really careful.
You don't know how relieved I was to find out there cannot be skinwalkers in New Jersey. I was so relieved when you told me that. I was like, all right, nice.
See, you're comfortable, but here I am in Arizona. It's like skinwalker. It's like, laugh all you want. Laugh all you want.
In the dark.
You're never gonna let me live that down.
I'm a haunted person. I always have been. If they could come here, I guarantee you they'd be drawn to me. But I do think that's the native blood in us. And
could be.
Yeah, I think a lot of my ability has to do with that as well. And they do say ability like this comes from usually 99% of the time the maternal side, which makes sense. My father is 100% Irish, which is kind of another culture of rich legends and lore heritage. But then we have the native side on my mom's side, which even more for me, that I got it from her side.
That's one thing I always find so romantic and beautiful about the indigenous people is they're just like, they're so in tune with nature and Mother Earth that like, I'm almost jealous, you know, because they can feel changes in nature. They can feel changes in the earth. And it's like, it's beautiful to watch at. Like William Nighthawk, when he talks, man, I could sit there and listen to him for days. Just the wisdom
it wasn't
he
ingrained
imparts.
out of them. It wasn't conditioned out of them. Like in our modern culture, I tell everyone, most of y'all were born with the same abilities I have. We were all born with recall and connection. It's just a matter of, there's no monster in your closet. Go back to sleep. There's nothing under your bed. Turn the light off. That is very damaging, not only because your kid is probably seeing what your child is saying they're seeing, but also because this conditions you to completely ignore and eventually not see anymore everything that's all around you. It's social conditioning, societal conditioning, and I don't believe natives practice that. I believe they're more open and accepting because they've always been, because that's their tradition to be that. So my mom said, I'm glad I came in to listen today. I learned a lot about these birds. I just have a question. So does my mom have to fear blackbirds when they're simply in the vicinity?
No, I mean, like if you're feeling well and everything's positive in your life, then don't fear them. You know, I mean, like I said, the raven mocker is when you're sick and when you're dying. You know, but you're going to know if a raven mocker is after. Yeah, you have to physically be on your deathbed, you know. So if you're dying and it's your end of days, that's when you should probably start doing the tobacco thing. And one thing you can do, I don't know if you both smoke or if she smokes, but
she smokes.
You can get, she can get pure tobacco, sit in her room and just exhale the smoke because pure tobacco keeps it at bay.
It's purifying too. I bet.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's taking her prayers. And what it does is when you hold it inside of your lungs, when you inhale, it's absorbing your prayers. So when you exhale it, it's carrying it up to the creator so he can actually hear your prayers. So I would smoke tobacco like that. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Awesome. So that's what's really in the peace pipe most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why they do it. That's why when they have ceremonies. Yeah. It's when they have ceremonies, they have that pure tobacco so that their prayers and their needs and their wants are carried up to their creator so that everything is granted to them.
That I did know.
That's so cool.
They also use tobacco as a medicine too, as a decongestant.
Yeah. Yep, they do. They do. It's got outstanding qualities. It really does.
That's awesome. No one ever believes kids. I was fortunate. My mom always believed me. I just knew my dad didn't. So, and I believe my son, but it's an overwhelming thing watching your kid be fearful of something that maybe you can't see, or in certain cases where you can see it, what's kind of bugging your child, but maybe the other parent doesn't want that nonsense around the house. Then you have to.
My parents didn't believe believe me, it was the fact that they had a child that rocked all night and didn't sleep for days. So they just assumed that I was hallucinating from a lack of sleep.
Or that you had some kind of maybe physical. I think in our society too, it's very just generally speaking, it's very common to just go right for what's physically the issue. Right? We don't right away think about spiritual ailments or energetic dis-ease or things like that. And that's a lot of what I try to teach in my community, even for small kids. You don't want to terrify your kids. I tell my son that everything I talk about is all made up stuff. It's all stuff that I make up. Why am I going to terrify him? He's 5.5. You know, when he gets older, I'll talk to him more about it. But for now, he doesn't need to know any of this stuff is lurking around. I believe he sees enough as it is. So when he gets old enough, you know, but I think most people go directly for, again, like, oh, sleep deprivation. So probably hallucinating from that. Okay. Or, you know, getting brain scans or CAT scans. It's like just looking at anything but the spiritual aspect of it. And I do believe that's where natives got it right.
Yes,
in
I
that
agree.
they focus on a spiritual angle. And I'll say it again. I've already said it, and I say it all the time. Physical dis-ease and sometimes mental as well. It starts with spiritual dis-ease. You are out of whack. You are out of alignment. There is something. You lost too many soul pieces, maybe, because we do lose them. We have too many energetic cords that we've bonded with people that are no longer around or that treated us like poop. You know, there's so much that goes into it. And I'm really happy, like within this community, we're all very accepting. And when someone asks me for advice, they're very willing to listen to what I have to say and take the advice. They don't look at me like, okay, except for one time I talked to someone about the Galactic Federation. I never heard from her again. But, you know, it weeds out the weaklings, I guess.
Yep.
My mom recently got very uncomfortable. She's house shopping with my aunt and uncle, trying to find a bigger place. And she met the realtor for the first time. And she just got like this really like uncomfortable feeling, not being able to breathe too well. And she's like, something about this lady just made me uncomfortable. Not that she was afraid of her, that there was anything bad about the lady, but just that something about the woman was like putting my mom off.
Yeah.
The woman randomly out of nowhere comes out and is like, oh yeah, I don't know. Spirits just jump inside me and start writing things sometimes and giving me information. So the woman's a physical medium, but she's closed off to it. She has no control over it, which is very bad to have no control. That I could just be sitting here right now and something can jump in and just start using, like, I have to make sure that doesn't happen. That is an everyday life of being a medium. This poor woman doesn't know that that's what she is. And she doesn't know that every morning when she wakes up and every night before she goes to bed, there are certain things she absolutely has to do, or that's going to happen. She'll be texting, she said, and all of a sudden she's overtaken. She's texting out, you know, this name, this person murdered this person. Here's where that person's buried. And then all of a sudden she's herself again and goes on about her day. First of all, that is so physically dangerous what that takes from you. But my mom sensed it in her right away. She knew it immediately. And I don't think my mom sensed the medium part of her. I think my mom sensed the damaged part of her, because the healer that my mom isn't aligned with, but that she definitely is, understood the pieces of this woman's soul that she has lost through allowing this constant jumping. Yeah. He said, oh yeah, I'm growing this channel. If you're a believer, you are more susceptible. You're not really more susceptible, I don't think. I just think it's that you're more aware. So while someone could get attacked, just say, in a different way every single day for a week, if they're not a believer, they're not going to look at every single one of those attacks as attacks. Oh, I accidentally fell down the stairs. Oops, I choked and almost, you know, couldn't breathe. I almost died from choking on a pancake. They're going to look at it that's weird. Whereas someone who's a believer and who understands what's going on is going to understand, crap, I'm under attack here. And I think that's the difference. It's not that you're more susceptible. It's that you're more aware and cognizant of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, your mind opens up once you have your first, you know, encounter or experience. That's when your mind just...
For sure.
I don't know. I must be one of the rare few, though. You know, in my field, if I hear a story from a kid, I'm going to believe the kid before I believe an adult, oddly enough.
Oh, me too. Me too.
So,
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Kids
I had
are
a
so
case
much
here
more
in
open.
Arizona that I look into. Yeah, there was a story I was looking into, a case, a Bigfoot case, where a kid, he was friends with my friend's son. He was about 7 years old. And he was telling me about how he saw King Kong over at Mount Lemmon. I'm like, King Kong? What's he talking about, King Kong? And so I was sitting and talking with him. I'm like, what do you mean you saw King Kong? He was like, there was a gorilla at Mount Lemmon. He was running up the hill. I saw him. Daddy and mommy didn't see him, but I saw him. And I'm like, he's talking about Bigfoot. So I went up there, and sure enough, I was asking around. People were like, yeah, Bigfoot has been seen up here. So the kid was telling me about Bigfoot. He just, he called it King Kong.
He didn't
because
know
that's
what to call
equated
it.
in his young mind. Right. So he said, it looked like a gorilla. He was big and very muscular, and he was really fast like King Kong was. So I'm like, listen to kids, man. From the mouths of babes, they're going to know what's up.
It's
But yeah,
true.
I'll believe a kid more than an adult, because adults can make up lies. Okay. Little
adults have motivation.
Kids
for
are
sure.
pretty innocent. Yes.
They're innocent.
Whereas
and they're
little
accurate,
kids, they don't have anything they're trying to gain.
and they don't have a filter. And if you really think about it, here's the thing with little kids. Now, if you believe what I tell people, which is something I know for a fact, that we chart our own path when we're in the fifth dimension. We choose who comes into our lives and when, where our lives goes. And there are several twists and turns we can take before we end up on that path. It took me till I was 37 to be on my path. Okay. But that's the human experience, right?
Right.
But when we're first born, like, I know several people who have their unborn children that have been following them around their entire lives, just waiting for the moment that they're going to be born. That's what children do. So when we're first born, we're coming from that fifth dimension, the other side, or heaven, whatever you want to call it. So the closer you are to birth, meaning 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, the less contaminated you are by society, because most kids spend most time, within their family unit at home, not going to school yet. The more connected they're going to be to their spirit guides that help bring them over, their angels, their aunts, and all of those things. Once they start going to school, hitting first, second grade, if that ability or those abilities aren't being nurtured, that's when they're going to start forgetting, and when they're going to start detaching. But I would still believe a kid 1,000,000% over an adult, because an adult could have motivations. They could be trying to manipulate you. They could be clout chasing, trying to get money, whatever. Oh
yeah, especially in my field, man. Hey Ashley, glad you can make it. Yeah, especially in my field, I can't tell you how many people will contact me from California going, oh, I saw a Wendigo, or there's a guy in Boston, Massachusetts saying I saw a skinwalker. I'm just going, oh, good grief, not this again. I have to explain all these things to them. It's just like, dude, I
can't say I've ever seen anything that I would have equated to a skinwalker or a Wendigo around this area. But like I keep saying, it did make me feel a lot better that I'm like, okay, I don't have to worry about at least those things. I don't have to worry about here, which is why in the beginning I asked you about the Raven marker. Is it for anybody, or is it the same kind of magic with a K, for lack of a better word, that is affecting the skinwalkers? This would be an anybody thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it could be. I really do, because I mean,
Anyone,
someone once. Yeah, I mean, one native actually told me one time, if you have even one drop of native blood in you, you're native. Okay. So I would suppose that, if you're Cherokee, and you're anywhere in the country, if you're Cherokee, that thing can zero in onto your bloodline and know where you're at. I mean, that's how they work.
Oh, that's another good question before we get ready to end. So is this a bloodline thing? If the Raven Mocker, there are entities that once it devours your soul, it'll then move on and be like, is it a generational type thing? Like the Skinwalker, I believe, is passed from person to person, or we don't know.
We don't know. We really don't know it. That's the really interest down. They don't even know how it actually comes about. They don't know the origin of these things, so that's really even to the charity, unless they don't want to tell you. I think it's a little bit of their reluctance to tell people. So a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, sounds good. Ryan, do you have anything else before we end? I am ending a few minutes early, but that's just because go ahead.
On the 9th,
hold on a minute. You're breaking up. Give it a second. Okay, you're back. Go ahead.
Okay, on the 9th, I will be over on Behind Tall Trees with Glendon Purcell. We're going to be talking about cryptid misidentification and, as always. So come join me over there.
Do me a favor, send either myself or Steven that link, because you did break up a little bit. I don't know what's going on, but that way we can share it. I'll share it in the community for you so we can put it out to all the subscribers who might be interested in heading over there. All right.
Great. Sounds great.
All right. Ghost Dragons, anything else? All right. I will talk to you in a few minutes. I got yoga to do. Guys, I love you all. Thank you so much for coming in. We had a good crowd today. Great chat. Thank you so much, Ryan and Ghost Dragons, as always. And I'm going to pop you guys out, give my little announcement, and say goodbye. Talk to you guys later. Yes, Mama, I will see you tomorrow for our Mother's Day lunch. I can't wait. I love you. Yeah, guys, so Monday, we're going to be discussing thwarted abductions. Hey, Bryce, you just missed the stream. You should go back and check it out if you're interested in the Raven Mocker. I'm not sure what else we're doing on Monday. I want to do listener encounters, but I don't have enough content right now, so hopefully I can get some before Friday so that I can create and film the video, get it edited over the weekend. I don't think I have anything coming up until the 23rd, which is 1 p.m. brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob, which is going to be awesome. On the Sunday, the 28th at 8 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be with Wayne and Michelle over on Michigan UFO. And yeah, love you guys. Thank you so much for stopping in. I'm going to go about the rest of my day. Last night, I got to speak to some recovering addicts, and that was really cool. I do that once a year, and it always just makes me feel so good and bright and positive. So be kind to each other, be kind to others, and try not to judge, because you never know what someone else is going through, guys. And yeah, love you all, and talk to you soon.